Greetings and salutations. This is Hugh Jarsz. Oh, I love a good Hugh Jarsz theme in the morning. That gets me going. And here we are. It's a new day and a new live stream. And we've had all sorts of stupid and some inspiring stuff in the past week. And we're going to have a look at that. And now I've just got to remember how I share things. Just let me get there. Oops, no, that's not it. I should have been a little bit more prepared, but I always should be a little bit more prepared. Let's see. It should be that one, I think. And I hope this is going to work. Yes, it's ladies' night tonight, and that was a terrible intro. Anyway, let's welcome our guest, who is one of the most ladylike ladies in the world, or at least in the world of YouTube. It's Aimee Hogan. Hello, Aimee.
Hello. How are you, Hugh?
Oh, I've got to stop sharing, damn it. Too many things at once. I'll get there eventually.
There we go.
Thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I hope so. That's the plan. And speaking of a lot of fun, well, thanks to all my channel members. I just see Second Best Bob there. Just looking back through the chat, Tusk was in first. And as were you, Aimee, you're talking to Tusk?
Yes.
Clive Wells, Dr. Clive Wells with his Banjo Vampire. I'm not sure what that's about, but there it is. Going down, oh, not too many people yet. They've got to warm up and come in here. Oh, Hungry Bee's here. Hello. He's waiting for my Hugh Jarsz. What does that mean? Second Best Bob, I said. Elon Musk is here. Hugh to infinity. Yes, that's what my belt size is. And hello, Microraptor. Hello, lovely people. Oh, I guess he means me as well. All right, Aimee, it's a real pleasure to have you on. And oh, actually, no, just one more thing before we go to that. And let's try and share the screen. I was going to have 3 screens, and the third screen is not going at the moment.
Oh.
So it's a little bit of a juggling. So just let me do this. And let me share this with you. Oops, that's not it. That's not it. Where'd it go? Oh, I've lost it. Oh, no, it's I didn't move it in the right place. Let's have a look at this. A bit of corgi spam for you.
No.
I don't know if Keel is watching, but this is for her as well with the goats.
No.
They are goats. No, they're sheep. They're sheep. There we are.
Oh,
Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. And corgis, because they're quite fluffy, float very well. They retain a lot of air in their coat.
Okay.
Not a lot of power in the legs for swimming, but
that's too cute.
Yeah. And corgi puppies, I think, are the cutest things in the world.
Oh my goodness, they are. Look at that baby.
Yeah, he'd be about 12 weeks, I think.
Cute.
Oh, it's a hedgehog. It's alive.
It is.
It's just a toy. Yes, they love having their ears rubbed too.
Oh, look at the face.
I read somewhere that all dogs like that because there's like nerves there that affect all their organs and releases endorphins and things. So they absolutely love an ear rub.
Oh, that's so cute.
Also, I imagine they can't really reach that spot themselves. So, you know. Hey, Colin's in the house. How are you, Colin?
That's so cute.
This is torture to me, but if I was a dog, I would not be happy.
No. Very patient.
Very good dog.
Yes.
Very good dog. It must be killing it. It wants to eat it. And there it is.
That's so cute.
And corgis and kids are good too.
Oh.
Now, this video is Creative Commons, but I've seen this on a copyright video too, so I'm not sure how that works. But the one I've got is Creative Commons, so I'll be posting a link later.
That's so cute.
And watch what the dog does, I think. It's waiting. It's waiting. It's going to give him a hand. There you go.
Oh,
Now you can throw it to me.
this is how it works.
Oh, corgis in the snow too. Look at it. They just sink.
Oh, look at him try so hard.
And,
Oh my goodness.
A couple of days old puppies here. Proud mum there.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone to sleep. No, he's waking up. Well, it could be a she. I don't know.
Cute.
Oh, mum and dad.
Oh. They roll over very easily, I've noticed.
Yes.
So cute.
And that's that. All right.
Very cute.
This is not. I have not set up this well. Well, I will some next time. I'll have 3 screens working properly. Anyway, second best Bob says he had a duckling in his boat this evening. Interesting.
Oh.
How does that happen? All right. Oh, yes. Tuss says the banjo vampire that Clive Wells posted earlier is one of his childhood nightmares. 2 scary things put together. Yes.
Deliverance and vampires all in one.
So, Aimee, most of the people watching would probably be aware of you, but for those who don't, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Aimee Hogan, and I am on with the shills for the most part. I read mostly super chats, but lately I've been getting more and more into hosting the shows and getting into the debates and helping with questions, and hopefully soon we'll be moderating a couple debates coming up too, so this will be fun.
That sounds awesome.
Thank you. I have, of course, Matthew with me. Usually he'll come and make a few comments and and make his presence known, and
was that him laughing earlier at the corgis, or?
Yes, he did too.
Yeah.
He loved the corgis. He loves them.
Yeah.
So he's usually with me, and you'll hear him all over the place.
Well, it's great to hear you're doing more on the shills, because when you first started, your job was to read out the super chats, and Matt stole that job from you, and you had nothing left to do except introduce Matt. So
that's right. Yes. So when I very first started out, that's what I did. And maybe a few comments if I could jump in and everything. And we split the job for a while, and then now I'm getting more into hosting so that, I can be a part of the show again.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is good and fun. So yeah,
well,
I'm all
I can't
excited.
think of anyone better to do it, really. I mean, Dick can dominate a bit too much, but perfect. Everyone loves to hear your voice, but you won't dominate, and you'll facilitate the discussion. Not that Dick doesn't, but it's good to have that change once in a while. Is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, and that's what we're thinking too. Is to change things up, and change is always good. It's comes as a surprise some days when I'm on, and so it'll be fun. Yeah, and I'm excited about the debates because I can bring, mom can come out and and direct traffic, and so that experience will be helpful.
Yes, and you've. I'm not putting Matt down in any way, but I imagine he's a particularly stubborn at times, being just because he's a teenager. And dealing with stubborn debate participants would be just second nature to you as a result.
Exactly. I used to volunteer in his classroom more often, and now that he's going to be going back to school full time, I might be able to do some of that as well. So having that experience under my belt does help a little bit too, and dealing with behavioral issues and things like that will actually really help a lot with debate chats, especially when they get heated. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
And speaking of a bit of heated, Microraptor took my comments on Dick to heart and says that my review of the shills is sometimes too much Dick.
That's right. So we're going to add some femininity to it some days.
Yes. It's a shame we didn't get that comment a bit later, because we're going to have a look at a giant Dick later on. Hello, the Kiweasel who just popped in. There's 19 watching now. If you haven't made a comment yet, please say hello and we can say hello back. So we see you on the shills. What's life like for you at the moment?
Right now we're we're doing pretty good. We just started summer vacation again. They split up Matthew's year. The summer vacation, he has vacation for 4 weeks, goes to what's called extended school year for 4 weeks. And then now we're just starting the second 4 weeks before he goes back to school full time in the fall. So right now he's home with me and he's enjoying vacation and sleeping in like a normal teenager would. So
Well, they do that a lot, yes.
yes. I'm discovering that. It's fun. And so yeah, he's looking forward to the fall already. But also looking forward to vacation too. He's ready. So I'm home helping him with that, and then in the fall we'll see where we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, awesome.
Thank
And
you.
Given it's summer, what sort of things do you like? You're probably getting out. What sort of things do you like to do in the summertime? And getting out and you go sailing, I guess, or something like that. You're in Maine, aren't you?
Yes, I'm on the coast of Maine, so we live close enough to the water so that when the tide goes out, we sometimes can smell it. We like to go, on the water. We like to, visit. We have what's called at the end of our town called Land's End, and we go down there. We go exploring. We have some hiking trails in town that we go and do, which is good to get the energy out. He likes to take his scooter on the bike trails, so that's always fun. And it's
awesome.
Yes, and the weather's been very cooperative lately, so it's been nice and cool, and so we can do that and not have to worry about heat exhaustion or anything. So we've been doing a lot of that. All kinds of fun things to do for summer, and all kinds of playgrounds that are now opening up again. So it's fun.
Well, of course, here in the southern hemisphere, it's the middle of winter, and I had a heater on earlier, but it was making too much noise on the mic, so I've turned it off. So now I'm going to start shivering, I think. It's 8 degrees Celsius. Don't know what that is in the old measurement, but that's pretty cold for Brisbane, put it that way. I think the lowest ever recorded in Brisbane was 2 degrees or something like that. So we're getting close to that, and but it's going to get up to about 21 or something like that, which is a very pleasant day. It's certainly for winter. It's something you guys wouldn't experience very much. And I actually figured out that, there's a couple of thousand Ks in it, of course, but you're pretty much on the other side of the world from me, and vice versa. And yet here we are doing a show together. How amazing is that?
Exactly. That is so cool. And growing up, of course, we didn't have internet. This is all so new and so interesting. And it's really fascinating that it can make the world seem like it's so much smaller than it is. And we can all get together and talk about different things and have friends all over the world and in so many different places. And to be able to learn about all that is so much fun.
And I think the pandemic has sort of brought that to the fore, really.
Yes.
I work from home most days. I'm asked to go into the office 2 days a week, but there's really no point. People could be anywhere. They could be anywhere in the world, and we can have meetings and send notes to each other and ask questions and things like that. We don't really need to be in the same office where we can transmit viruses and things. So, I think the world has changed permanently now. I don't think people are going to go back to 5 days a week in an office because of the commuting more than anything else.
Exactly. And that's what I've noticed too. And even things have changed so much, even for us to have services come into the home. We don't as much. We can do things remotely. I meet with his case managers on Zoom or whatever. And, he can talk to like a behavioral health specialist online now. He can just, Zoom call or do like a Google Meet with somebody. And that's how we do things now too. It's been different. It's been something to get used to.
Yeah, but it's good. I think it's a positive move forward for our society, especially with traffic congestion and all that sort of thing. That's going to be reduced, and we won't have to build as much infrastructure. So we've got a saving. We can spend it on hospitals and schools and things. So it's all positive all around, I think.
It really is.
A couple of people said hi in the chat. I just want to say hi to Fred Bailey and Peter Noddle, who was apparently in Cairns, which is where my mother was from. So I know Cairns quite well, although it's changed a lot over the last few years, the last 30 years especially. Tornagon from New Zealand. Hello. They're talking about having the jab. I've had my first one, and God, that knocked me around, but I hope the second one's not so bad.
Hopefully not. Yeah, Matt and I are both fully vaccinated now, and the second one was the one that hit us harder. I had Moderna, and he had what's the other one? Pfizer is the one he had that's approved for kids his age. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, did Moderna knock you around, or?
The second one did. The first one wasn't so bad. I just felt a sore arm for, a couple days and I was fine. The second time around was the one that hit me. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to bed. That's it. I'm done.
well, for my age group, only AstraZeneca was available here.
Okay.
We've been having trouble getting supplies out here, and we can't get the manufacturers to manufacture them here. So we're sort of dependent on what we can get from overseas, and they're all holding on to their supplies because they don't know what's going to happen. So the government's being criticised for rolling it out slowly, but they're doing the best they can, I think. I don't think any government can be criticised, really, because no one knew how to deal with this. It's not within living memory of how things happened. And we didn't have the technology we had back in the Spanish flu days. So now it's a whole new ball game, and they've got to figure it out as they go along. And it doesn't really matter what government it is or what political party they are. They were all going to pretty much follow the same path, I think. So, and they're all listening to the doctors. So that's probably the best thing. So, Moderna, I would like to get. The Moderna I would like to get, but I guess I'm on AstraZeneca path now. So, and people seem to think that once you've got the vaccine, then you're immune, but that's not the case. It just means you can fight it better. You can still get sick from COVID, but the risk of dying is almost zero.
Exactly.
And it's also an age group thing. I saw data that said that if you're an 80-year-old and you get your vaccination, that gives you the immunity of a 50-year-old who hasn't had a vaccination. So, there's a scale there. It's all a risk management thing in the end. It's better than not having a vaccination, put it that way.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Absolutely. And we know that it won't, cure it or anything like that, but we know it'll give us a fighting chance against this, against coronavirus, which is what everybody wants. Yeah. Because, this is something it's something else. We've lost here in the US, we've lost kids as young as 5 months old, all the way up through. So nobody is immune from this at all. And it's been a struggle dealing with the anti-vaxxers and the virus hoaxers with all of this, because this is very real. And a lot of people don't understand that. And they don't understand the gravity of it, especially if they, I'm not sure what's going on, but especially in the US, we seem to have a lot more. It might just be the population size, but we just seem to have a lot more people who really think that, this is nothing. It's nothing to worry about. And they're downplaying things. And I don't know if it's done out of fear or if it's done just because, they don't trust anybody, but it's
stupidity was the word I was going for, but yeah.
Well, that too.
But we'll get into that in more detail later. A few more people entered the chat. So Woden Toad, hello. Cygnus TSP, Cygnus Teaspoon, Tablespoon. Bob Nodell's gyroscope. We always love Bob. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
And Mippet's here. Hello, Mip. How are you? Haven't seen you for a little while.
Hi, Mippet.
So now I hear that you're vertically challenged.
Yes, I am. I am all of 4'10".
Wow. Yeah. I think my leg's 4'10".
There we go. Yeah. So I have I'm so proud of my find. I have the library footstools that you see the librarians kick around all over the place to get the books on the top shelves. Well, I have one in my kitchen, and I'm very good at moving that thing around and using it as needed. So now I can reach the second shelf in my cupboards, and I'm so thrilled.
It's like an extension in your body. You're effectively a cyborg now.
Exactly. And poor Matthew's not much taller. He's 5'3". So.
Oh, right. I was going to ask, because you don't want a 6-foot teenager, when they're angry at you and that kind of thing. So
exactly, yeah.
Which they tend to be.
Yes. Right now, mom is the enemy because, he's a teenager. But for the most part, with his developmental issues, he's more like a younger kiddo. So it's helpful that way because he's still very loving and isn't embarrassed by his mom yet. So that's a plus. So I hope
Well,
he
man,
doesn't quite get to the
if you're listening, you should never be embarrassed by Aimee. She's a wonderful person.
Thank you very much.
I see Ardaman is sticking his eyes in there. So hello, Ardaman. Haven't seen you for a while either. So we're going to start looking at a bit of news now. And
Okay.
one of these, something you've heard of before called the Olympics is on right now in Tokyo. It's a bit weird. It's the first time it's been in a odd numbered year, but simply because of the delay from COVID last year in Tokyo. Eileen Dover, who you might be aware of, you occasionally see her in chats and things. She's a member of the Wolfpack as well. Her son, Flip, was on track to go to Tokyo, but a couple of months ago he broke his leg, the poor guy. So he's a gymnast. He's a very good gymnast, and he would have been in Tokyo right now, I suspect. And he can do a few things that he's the only one in Australia who can do it, so he might have been right up there as well. So hopefully he's still doing it in 4 years' time. I don't know where the next Olympics is, but he'll I'm sure he'll have a crack at that one as well. And it'll have 4 more years more experience, of course.
That's right. And keep our fingers crossed for him.
And in more Olympic news, my hometown of Brisbane here in Australia got nominated as the Olympic venue for the 2032 Olympics. So I'm still figuring out if that's a good thing or not. A lot of people say it's going to send us broke. Politicians love Olympics because it gives them the excuse to spend an awful lot of money, which always buys votes. But I'm not sure it's actually going to make anything better, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, hopefully it does. And it'll bring in, people will be able to come to see it and see how wonderful Brisbane is. And that would be a good thing. Maybe they'll come back for vacation again. So,
well, we were up for the 2000 Olympics, but they eventually went with Sydney mainly because sponsors wanted to have, didn't want to travel far to go to their private boxes at the Olympics. But Sydney, Brisbane's advantage is we have the Gold Coast to the south and the Sunshine Coast to the north, which have heaps of accommodation because it's the holiday mecca of Australia. And so when you've got an Olympics coming in, you want a lot of accommodation. And Sydney never really had that. It was people were renting out houses for several $1,000s a week and that kind of thing. Back when rents were like $200 a week. It's and that was 20 years ago now. So who knows what it's going to be like Brisbane Olympics? Maybe I'll rent my house out for $10,000 a week or something with inflation.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I am going to do this again. All right. Well, let's try it. One more bit of Olympic news, and let's see if I've got it. No, not that one. Not that one. That one. The Corgi Olympics. And I reckon my dogs would have a chance at the sleeping and barking gold medals.
That's adorable.
Actually, the shedding, they have a good... shedding, they do a lot on that too. Yeah. I don't know why they've got a sheep there because corgis are cattle dogs, not sheep dogs. But they look like border collies. But we always say border collies are corgis with freakishly long legs. And super short hurdles. They'd have to be. Yeah,
that's cute.
And zoomies, they just go crazy every time. So, all right. So we go back to where we were. I should have set this up better. So speaking of Olympics, I can. Yeah. So South Korean TV network MBC, not NBC, but M for Mary, BC, got in a bit of trouble during the Olympics, their coverage of the Olympic opening ceremony. I think they were just trying to be helpful to their audience in North Korea, not North Korea, South Korea. And we're so used to saying North Korea these days. This keeps coming up in the news. South Korea doesn't so much. And as the countries came out onto the Olympic Stadium in the parade, they put up a picture that would help their viewers recognise what the country was. But it didn't go quite so well. Like what sort of image would you put up for Italy, for example?
Oh, I'm not sure. I would more than likely think the map of Italy because it looks like a boot. That's recognizable. I can only imagine what they put up.
They put up a picture of a pizza.
Oh.
So that's not particularly bad,
Right.
But then Haiti came out, and what do you think they put out for that?
Oh, dear. I'm not sure.
Well, Haiti's president was assassinated recently in civil unrest, so they put up a picture of civil unrest.
Oh. Oh, dear. That's not very sensitive, is it?
No, not very sensitive at all. I don't know if Koreans have a different approach to life, but then Ukraine, what do you think they put up for Ukraine?
Oh, what is Ukraine famous for? Not really sure.
They put up a picture of Chernobyl.
Oh.
That'd be sort of like for the USA, they'd put up a picture of the Twin Towers falling or something. It's
Right.
That's not very smart.
No.
But I guess Koreans don't know much about Ukraine, is what it's saying.
Right.
But the funniest one by far was Romania. What do you think they put out for Romania?
Did they put up Dracula?
It's funny you should say that. Let me just show you. There we are. There he is.
They did.
Dracula.
And
Oh, you're from Romania?
Yeah.
I'm just going to cover my neck. Yeah. So you can see, here's the Haiti one, the civil unrest. Here's the Ukraine one with the Chernobyl. For Norway, they put up a salmon.
Oh,
and for Romania, they put up Dracula. I need a name.
That's funny.
That's probably the funniest thing I've seen all year. So I was really, that was awesome. Anyway.
That's brilliant.
So now we're going to we were talking about the vaccination earlier. We're going to go to a bit more sadder topic, I guess.
Okay.
This guy, he's an anti-vaxxer. How do I minimize the top? I don't know. And he died of COVID after speaking out against the vaccine that could have saved him. And which is very sad. Let me scroll down to the picture of him. There he is. And he was a member of Hillsong Church.
Okay.
And he went to social media and sort of was encouraging other people to not have the vaccination while he was dying of COVID.
Oh my!
Which is very sad.
That is very sad. And he
the
wasn't
reason
very old.
No, he was 34. The reason I do my videos, and I'm sure a lot of other people do them for the same reason, is that I fear for the world if stupidity becomes mainstream. And this is the kind of stupidity I'm talking about, where someone gets themselves worked up. I'm not sure if Hillsong is relevant to the story. It's just there in the story. I'm just saying that it is. I don't know. Wouldn't think Hillsong actually actively encourage people to not get the vaccination. I don't think they do that. But this guy was one of them. And it's relevant to the story in the sense that the founder of Hillsong was commenting on his death. He got COVID and pneumonia. Pneumonia is a very common complication of COVID. And the last few days, he was saying, please pray you all. They really want to intubate me and put me on a ventilator. That's because he was getting so bad. If you get to that point, your chances are really plummeting.
Right.
Yeah, and he's describing what happens when you have COVID. And I'm not sure everyone who hasn't had COVID understands these things. Even the slightest movements, and his heart rate skyrockets, and his oxygen dependency increases.
Right.
So, he was saying he was going to make his own choice on intubation. He eventually got it, and it was just such a waste. It was his own stupidity that stopped him getting the treatment he needed to survive. And I worry if you scale that up to society as a whole. I mean, the Roman Empire fell because people were selfish, basically. and they didn't want to pay to defend themselves against the barbarians. The Western Roman Empire, I mean. Well, I guess eventually the Eastern one. And this is that kind of stupidity where you are filling your mind with stuff that's wrong, demonstrably wrong, but insisting that it's correct. And as a result, you have an adverse outcome. If that's the polite way to say it, I guess. And it's the same with flat earthers. You know, if flat earthers became the majority, planes would crash into the ocean because they wouldn't be following a great circle route and that kind of thing. You know, not that I'm
Absolutely.
sure it just beggars the mind that we even have to deal with this sort of idiocy. You know.
Well, yes, and I've been struggling with this too, and it concerns me. This, you know, this misinformation that's been spread around so much really concerns me. As you know, as a mom, and of course as a debunker too. That's why we do these, because we can't let this misinformation take over, because this is what happens. This is a public health crisis. This isn't, you know, this isn't a political thing, and that's what they're making it out to be. And that's the scary part. My politics say I can't get a vaccination. No, it's public health. Not only you're protecting yourself, you're helping protect other people and get us up to a point where we can, almost all of us can fight this off. That's how we end a pandemic, not, you know, balking at things because you have, one, a mistrust of the government, or two, you know, something you believe makes you not willing to get any medical treatment that is vital to keep this from happening. It, you know, and with so much misinformation going around, as a mom of a child with special needs, I worry because they're so impressionable that they could fall for that too. And again, there we go. I mean, it's just, it's really hard.
Yeah, well, that's spot on. That's a point I would make, that the people who are young, who are by definition inexperienced and don't have as much educated as people who are older, are quite happy to accept misinformation as truth because they don't know how to process it. And if the person seems charismatic and very adamant about what they're saying, they think, oh, this guy must have thought through it and come up to this conclusion, so, you know, he must be right. And they'll go with it until they find out that they're wrong. And if they're finding out they're wrong from, you know, the government or something like that they don't trust because this guy's been telling them not to trust them, that's how cults form, and cult-like things anyway. And you get these pockets of anti-vaxxers who basically die from from not having the vaccine. So I don't want to. I don't know what it's like in America and in Australia. It's not compulsory to have the vaccine unless you're working in aged care, which is a reasonable thing. You don't even have to be a nurse in a hospital and have the vaccine, although pretty much every nurse is doing that because they're medical professionals and understand the value of vaccines, and they want to care for their patients. So it's not like it's being forced on you.
No.
I think I heard that America was up to 70% vaccinations in the population, something like that. And had at least one.
So yes, there are some pockets of the U.S. that aren't high at all for vaccination rates, and that's where you'll see all the variants really starting to blossom. My state's doing really well. Pretty much like 75% for us. We're getting there. Like to see higher, but for a good part of the country, yes, they've been doing very well rolling out the vaccine and making sure people can get it. But again, it's here too. It's political. It's not compulsory to get the vaccine. You know, they're thinking, like for the healthcare professionals, they might make it compulsory because, they're treating people and they're going to be seeing a lot of people who, for one reason or another, might already be vulnerable and just might catch it from someone who's, So
well, that's the risk, isn't it? It's those who, I mean, I think everyone has to make their own choice. I don't think you should be forcing people to have vaccinations, except maybe aged care is probably an obvious one. And you don't have to work in aged care as a medical professional. You can go to a hospital where you don't have to have a vaccination. And there's some reasons for not having a vaccination. I understand that a lot of women who are planning on getting pregnant at some point are scared to have the vaccination because it was rushed out and no one really knows the effects on pregnancy. I think it was a miracle that they got a vaccine within 9 months of the pandemic starting. That's an absolute miracle, and it shows what we can do when we focus our efforts and our resources.
Right.
But I think that's a legitimate concern that we might not know all the effects on pregnancy and things like that. So I think that's a good reason not to have the vaccine at this point. But we need more data to make that decision. But if you're just someone who isn't thinking about those, there's no real reason for you not to have it other than your own fears, which is really a bad reason to do anything.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And one of the things, because we heard some things about unvaccinated people being, filling up the hospitals again here. And we had that conversation in the car this afternoon about, well, what do you do if you hear something that you don't know or what you don't think might be true like that? And I told him, you have to slow down. You have to make sure that, you ask questions, you look into things, ask your doctor. Yes. And just keep checking and check with, the professional that works in that field, whether it's medical or something else. And so, so to always check in and I can understand that there is not enough data out there about, pregnant women and how that they'll fare with the vaccines and everything. It's a scary time right now. It really is.
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's a two-edged sword with the pregnant woman situation because, wanting to be pregnant woman situation because, it might affect their chances of having a baby, but it also might be dying from COVID also affects that too. So they've got a choice to make there. Not that younger people are more likely to do that, but it could happen. And certainly people, as you said, children as young as 5 months have died from it. It reduces your risk the younger you are, of course, but it doesn't mean there's zero risk. So it's a decision to make. It's a balance. You've got to make a choice for yourself, and I encourage people to make their own choices. But from a society point of view, the more people we have vaccinated, the better it is for everyone.
Absolutely, that's absolutely it. It helps with, with the spread and everything. And yes, you can still spread it when you have the vaccine, but like what we were talking about before, it does reduce your chances of having severe illness. So
yeah.
It's a tough thing. It really is a tough decision. And I can understand that because I was worried about Matthew. But the thing I did was I went and I checked with his doctors. I got them all together in a Zoom meeting. And I said, what do we do? They just approved it for his age group. Should we, shouldn't we? What are the risks? And I figured they were the best people to go to. And they all said, yep, give him his shot. The benefits certainly outweigh the risks. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and you demonstrated critical thinking there. You went and spoke to an expert rather than relying on your own discernment because you don't have the education to know that. Because if you did, you wouldn't need to go to the expert.
Exactly.
And yet a lot of people think they know better. They say, well, I've taken these random pieces of information I've gotten from somewhere, put them together, come to a conclusion based on that, even though you've got no expertise in the area whatsoever. And somehow they're right and all the experts are wrong. And that's just idiocy, basically.
Yes, that's exactly it. And that even happens too, like way back when Matthew was first getting diagnosed with his autism. I looked into it because, of course, I want to learn more about this. How am I going to help him? How am I going to, get him through the next steps? Yes, sir. And everything. So sorry. So what I had to do is I had to do all this research, and I did come across those studies from Andrew Wakefield. But the first thing I did was when I found those studies and I was concerned about, all of those things, back then too, I learned my lesson very quickly. I called my doctor and said, "This is what I found. Can you help me out here?" And luckily enough, we were very lucky to have someone who was willing to, oh, well, that's a study that was debunked and all of this stuff. And it's a good thing that now those things are pushed back a little bit, because other parents who find that, and of course they're scared because their kid just got diagnosed, they're going to see that and latch onto that.
Yeah.
And
that's the sadness of it.
Exactly. And that's what fuels a lot of the anti-vax too, and how it gets more people to believe all of that and all of that false information. So when they said that YouTube and and Google and all of that were going to push all of the misinformation back and not put it so high up in the algorithm, and a lot of people complained about that, but I was thinking, yeah, it's not censorship, but it's actually a good thing, because this is how misinformation spreads. Back then, it was one of the first things that come up because it was the most popular hit. Didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
And it really got around, and it did spread like wildfire. Facebook is another one that had that happen to. YouTube, of course. Look at Flat Earth. So there's a lot out there that's changed a lot now. And unfortunately, it's gotten a hold of so many people now that it's spreading other ways too. So it's oh boy.
Yeah, the algorithms behind social media outlets are basically confirmation bias machines.
Yes.
If you go to Google, which I guess is not technically social media, but you know what I mean,
right.
And you search for "do masks work," "do masks stop the virus," you will find a whole lot of articles that say, yes, the masks do stop the virus. But if you go to Google and search for "do masks fail at stopping the virus," you'll also find a whole lot of articles that say that. So whatever your bias is, which goes into the question that you ask, Google will confirm that for you. I mean, it's not a conscious thing. It's just the way it works. Right. So a lot of people don't have the discernment you had. You found something. And then you thought, okay, well, that's something I needed to be aware of if it's true. But then you went to an expert to find out if it actually was.
Exactly.
The people I'm talking about missed that last step, which is the important step.
Right. Which is questioning it.
And I'm glad you didn't call Andrew Wakefield Dr. Andrew Wakefield, because he's not a doctor.
No.
Anti-vaxxers need to learn that.
Exactly. And I did even more research after she said that, and I looked into that whole situation and found out why it was wrong information. And yeah. So, and I'm glad I didn't fall for that, because I was in a vulnerable place at that point. Because of course I was, worried about my son. I didn't know much about any of that. So thank goodness I do now. So, because, I could have fallen for that too. And I could have been one of the statistics of people who stopped vaccinating their child and fallen for all of that. And I could be the one on the other side seeing all of this of what's going on now, like with the virus being fake and all of that stuff, because it does blossom and it does continue. And that's something to think about as well.
How can anyone say the virus is fake? I mean, people are dying. I think over 1 million people have now died during the pandemic. Those people and their families in particular are not going to say, no, it's not fake. I know a lot of them were old and that kind of thing, but because they're vulnerable, but it's still something killed them.
Yes.
And you can do all the scientific tests you want. You'll find out that it's all the same thing, basically. So getting a virus when you're 80 is not a good thing. You'll spend most of your 80s and 90s, if you get that far, trying to avoid getting viruses and things, because your immune system's so low compared to what it was when you were younger. So that's how nature limits our lifespan. So, but that doesn't stop it being real. Sure, there are always other things when you're at that age. There are other things that morbidities is the word. But that doesn't mean it's not real. And certainly it's just ridiculous that you even entertain that thought is just amazing.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And there have been some comments too that I've seen in Discord servers that favor the flat earth, and they seem to all fall for the conspiracies too. And so, well, it's just older people that are dying right now. And it's like, just, there's still people too. And
yeah,
that whole
and most of them are
mindset.
beloved grandparents and things like that. So
exactly, it's just something else. I just can't get over some of it. I go in Gem server a lot, and some of the things you see in there are quite interesting about how they're really passionate about not believing in any of the stuff that's going on right now. And it's just incredible. Like, from it's fake, but then the vaccine is like, but they're making a bioweapon, and it's just, it's outlandish, some of the things they believe and the things they tell you are going on. It's just, I don't know what's going on there. So.
Well, I work with medical professionals all the time, and they are just amazed that they even have to deal with idiots who say the virus is fake and that kind of thing, because they're doing a hell of a lot of work. They're putting themselves at risk because they have to be exposed to the virus a lot, and a lot of other things as well, all the time as part of their job. And these idiots who say it's fake and spread misinformation make their job all that much harder. So when, like this guy we just looked at, when you actually do get sick, that means there's less resources available to help you because they're busy dealing with misinformation, or there's more people sick who shouldn't be because they should have taken a vaccine or whatever. It just is so self-defeating. I just want to mention Arden's comment. He said, with masks, for me, it's simple. There are no downside dangers to wearing one. So even if all the experts say I can stop wearing one, he'll keep wearing one until he thinks it's safe to stop. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's a risk management thing. If there's no downsides or dangers, well, and you feel you're not safe without one, then why wouldn't you?
Exactly. And even though Matthew and I are both vaccinated and we don't have to when we go in the stores, we still do. He's more comfortable with it right now, and I encourage that because it's amazing. As soon as the mask mandates dropped, everybody was just like, oh, we're just going to go back to normal now. Well, we still have the virus going around. It's still contagious. It's still happening. So we didn't feel comfortable without ours. So we still wear ours too. It's when we go out, it's just feel better. So. And
Poseidon 63 says wearing a mask will not stop you from being infected, but it will stop you infecting others. Well, it'll help at least anyway. Yeah. It's, like I said, risk management. It will reduce the risk. Exactly. I had another point and it's just escaped me. I hate being old.
I've been noticing.
Oh, yes, wearing a mask. Even if you're fully vaccinated, I think it's important to wear a mask if you're in Sydney's in a lockdown and has been for a month and will be for another month. Wow. And I think it's important to wear a mask regardless, to encourage other people who aren't vaccinated to wear masks. If everyone who's vaccinated doesn't wear a mask, then the people who need to wear masks aren't wearing them, because why should they? I think you need to encourage other people to contribute to society by wearing masks, even if you don't need to.
Exactly. And that's what I try to do. And same with Matthew. He learns by example and he learns visually. So seeing me always put my mask on before we go into a store has been really helpful with that too. And so, and next year when he goes back to school, he can go back full time, but they have to wear masks inside, vaccinated or not. So,
yeah,
which is a good thing.
And Ardo makes a good point. I'll paraphrase it. He's basically saying that he doesn't want to be responsible for killing someone else. So that's another reason he'll wear a mask regardless.
Exactly. Same here. And I still social distance. And if people get too close, it's like, whoa, I'm going to encourage you to step back, please. 2 meters, please.
Yeah. But with the whole mask thing, I reckon bank robbers must be having a field day,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how do you pick them anymore? And not to mention, Superman doesn't have to wear his glasses anymore.
No. Or if you do wear your glasses, sometimes they fog up with your mask. So it's kind of
pretty much every time.
Yeah.
It can be a bit frustrating.
Exactly.
We got check-in apps here, and so we have to do that. But I can't really read it without my glasses. I put my glasses on and they fog up. So it's a catch-22 situation. So
It is. I wear glasses too, so when I have them on, my phone just looks at me like, "Nope, you're not who you are. Nope, forget it." So plus I can't read it anyway.
So I want to. We'll come back to this, but I just want to move on to another subject, simply because with the tone of the show a little bit. Hang on. And I'll do the sharing. So many clicks for sharing. Here we go. A giant dick went into space last week on a giant dick. It's good footage.
It
Didn't
is.
have drones didn't have drones in the 1960s, so
No.
they couldn't get that sort of thing. It just gives me vibes of Dr. Evil, you know?
It does. It actually does.
From Austin Powers, yeah.
Yes, when he took off in his ship and everybody was doing all of the metaphors. And of course, some of the footage was shaky, and everybody, we all were laughing.
It's amazing that people will comment on that. I mean, it's moving really fast, and it's several kilometers away. So what do you expect it to be other than shaky?
Yeah. Exactly. It was amazing to see, though, how the footage they got, and the fact that that's a pretty accurate landing right there. That's really cool.
Yeah. What I find amazing is this was the first manned flight, and Jeff Bezos went up on it. No one had ever flown in it before. That's a hell of a risk. I'll give him props for that, because he took a hell of a risk, because it was the first time any humans ever flown at all.
Yeah.
And there he is. You can prove he was definitely in there, so it isn't fake. He definitely went up.
Yeah, he went right up there, and
yeah.
I can just imagine the views they had and how much fun they had up there in the 0G.
So I'm going to stop that. Nope, hang on. Get rid of that. Yeah. So, yep. So what I found amazing, apart from it being the very first Blue Origin staff flight, it marked they actually went into space. Unlike Richard Branson, who only went up to 69,000 feet. They went over the Kármán line, only just, but they went up there. So they actually went into space. They should get their astronaut wings personally, but they didn't orbit, I guess. But it was the first time it was a flight that made 2 records apart from it being the first Blue Origin staff flight. It was the oldest person in space and the youngest person in space went up together.
That was amazing.
Oliver Damon was the youngest. Arduin's giving me an Archer reference there. Did he really go all the way into space, or was it just the tip? So Oliver Damon, he's 18 years old. This was his birthday present, would you believe?
Oh.
His dad came second in an auction, but the person who came first wanted to go on a later flight. So he gave it to his son, and he went up on the first flight. He could have lost his son, because it's a risky business, but I guess he, as an 18-year-old, he could make his own choices too. Eileen Dover's son, Flip, said, when I turned 18, all I got was a mug. So this guy got a trip to space.
I know. Lucky guy.
Yeah. And Wally Funk was the oldest person in space at 82, a lot older than John Glenn's 77. Yes. And she was actually one of the original Mercury, what they called the Mercury 13. So there was the 7 male Mercury astronauts who trained, and there was an additional 6 women who trained as well. Because there was a whole lot of women use less oxygen, they take up less space, that kind of thing. So they were exploring that possibility. But I think in the end, the men, because they were all military men, they had the right sort of experience for it. I don't think it was sexism in that time. It was just simply because they didn't want civilians operating their brand new military type equipment.
Right.
And plus, they were all test pilots too. So, whereas I'm not sure what the women were, but Wally Funk missed out on going into space back in the Mercury program, the very first American space program, and she's gone into space now at the age of 82. How wonderful is that?
That's amazing. I think that's wonderful that she was finally able to get up there, and now we send women on a regular basis, which is really cool. So,
Yes,
for her to be able to see that and to see the progress that's been made is really incredible.
Well, now we don't even think about it. And that's to me is the end of sexism and the end of racism. When you're not even, it doesn't even come up. That's what we're aiming for. But of course, some people turn it into an industry and they keep it going. They bring it up every time because it suits them. They get benefit out of it, and that's like, they're not really helping society because we can't get to the point where it doesn't come up anymore because of them. But anyway. Arwin says Oliver was a Dutch guy too. I wonder if he's the first Dutchman in space. I suspect not, because the ISS has had lots of people, a couple of Australians even. So I imagine Dutch have been there, but he's certainly the youngest Dutch person in space because he's the youngest person in space.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's that. Now the next thing I want to show. I've got to share, don't I? This is not good. I'm going to have to get the third screen working so that this is a little bit better. Now, this image is from a guy called Christian Froschlin, who I found on Twitter. He's an amateur astronomer. Okay. And he took this image of the ISS, which to me is pretty clear.
That's neat.
Yeah. I've just bought a new telescope. I've got to get a mount for it. I'm hoping that I will be able to track the ISS with that mount and telescope, and I might be able to get images like this too myself. That way Celeste can't say someone else did. But this image, what's important about this image is it was taken before the Russian module, the new Russian module went in, which it went in a couple of days ago. So I contacted Christian, and he said he's going to take another image in September when the passes come over his part of the world again. And then weather, of course. So then we'll be able to compare what the ISS looks like in this image and what it looks like in that image. And you'll be able to see the new module, which will prove that there's something up there.
Absolutely.
So speaking of that new module, Where's Wally did a video on the Russian module coming in. I'll chipmunk it, but this is the footage he had.
Nice.
It's very nice. Look how close it comes to the Soyuz over here. This is the wing of the Soyuz.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So here's the module coming in. Look how close. I think it's just perspective, but it looks like this solar panel is going to hit this one. But you can see it's going behind.
It does. And at first, when you first see that, it's like, oh, it looks like when you see cars coming at you too, you think, oh, they're going to hit each other, but they don't.
Who left that Soyuz parked in the wrong spot? You know. You can imagine in the shopping mall, can the owner of Soyuz 3742 move your car, please? You're blocking a new module coming in.
Move your wing, please. That's incredible, though. That's still pretty close. So, for them to be able to maneuver it like that, it's pretty cool.
Oh, by the way,
that beautiful curvature.
Yes, and Fleurs also asked for a picture of another satellite from a satellite. Here you go. The ISS is a satellite, and there's another satellite. It won't be much longer. You can see the jets going there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, I'm not sure I shared with the sound. You can hear all the chatter in the background. Well, that's all right. We'll just talk over it.
Yeah.
Now, Wally made a comment that it's becoming orbital sunset, so you'll see the things get darker as we go through. We're right on the Terminator.
That's amazing.
I love that you can see the jets. You can see them working and making slight adjustments.
Yes, and that's the cool part.
And that's a rocket in the vacuum too.
Yes, it is. A rocket in space. And yep, look at how they can maneuver that into place so it fits perfectly. That's really cool.
Look at the wobbling in the solar panels. It shows that the CGI guys are earning their money, aren't they?
Yes,
there's no need to put that in. No need to put that in, but it's wobbling because the jets are going and sort of changing acceleration a little bit. There we are, docked.
Amazing.
And then it gets wound in, and then they connect everything up, and they can start using it. I'm not sure what it's for, but
that's so cool, though. So now they have an extra piece on there. Now you can see it.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to Christian's new photograph in September, and we'll do a comparison.
That would be so cool to see.
And just sort of jump ahead. I don't think we see a lot different. Oh, we see it. Oh, yes. Let's watch this. The sunset. Oops, hang on. Let's watch the sunset happen. So it's well and truly on the night side of Earth, but because it's high up, it was still lit. But now it's moved in.
It's now behind.
And apparently it's over China at the moment. So they're all cities in China, or towns anyway. All those little lights, they're not stars because we're looking at the Earth.
Exactly. Look at that. That's amazing.
There's a big city. All right.
That's incredible. What a view they have.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah. So that's space. We'll go back to space actually soon, but I want to talk about something else first.
Sure.
So I'm running a poll. Well, not a poll yet. I'm asking for suggestions. I want to do a video on. Oh, I better share the screen, shouldn't I? Otherwise, you can't see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Oh dear, this is frustrating. Anyway, and there we are. All right. So on my community page, so go to youtube.com/c/Hugh Jarsz. You can see my community page, and on there I've got. That's not the one I'm looking for. Let me go back one. That's where is it? There it is. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. I'm wanting to make a video of the top 5 dumbest flirt arguments. So I'm asking for suggestions. So if you haven't done it so far, please go to my community page. Like I said, youtube.com/c/Hugh Jarsz, and look up this post there and post your suggestions. So what I'm going to do is I'll choose the top 10 out of the ones that people suggest and run a poll on that. And I might run a couple of rounds actually. And I'll end up with the top 5. And then I'll make the video based on those top 5 and see what idiocy I can find to support those 5 dumbest arguments. It's got to be dumb. It can't be just something that they misunderstand. It's got to be something really dumb that no human being should ever misunderstand.
Exactly. It's a way they twist things to make it fit their idea of flat Earth and everything. So that would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Pratt just did a video comparing the vacuum of space to a vacuum cleaner. Now that's dumb. Yes, Debate the Coward 3, it was. Anything Daniel Pratt does is dumb.
Yes. To compare the vacuum of space with a Hoover, that's good.
It just proves they don't understand what it's about. So they don't get, because they don't look at it from a gravity point of view, they can't get what reality is like.
Exactly.
We don't advocate gravity because we made it up. We advocate it because we looked at things and found out that that's what best fits it. That's what reality told us about gravity, not the other way around.
Exactly.
But flirts don't understand that. They just make up things. So I might just jump to my channel for a second. So you might have noticed that, oops. So anyway, I'll just look down here. I'm doing a series on taboo conspiracy. He has a series, he's up to 12 at the moment, of flat earth truths, what he calls that.
Oh.
And pretty much every single thing he says is an utter lie. So I'm doing a series on responding to each of those videos. I'm up to the third one. In fact, I've got the fourth one in the can. They'll be released next week. He keeps looking at things, so keep an eye out for that next week. But if you haven't seen my number 3, I forget what it was about, actually, to be honest, because I've been thinking about number 4. I think in number 3, the answer to pretty much everything he showed as proof of flat Earth was refraction. Because in number 4, he tries and tells us how the globe propagandists have hijacked the word refraction. So yes, it's all kinds of stupid. So I'm having a bit of fun putting these videos together and trying to. What I'm hoping is that we can get enough people looking at these videos so that whenever Taboo's video comes up in the search, mine will come up as well, and that way people will get both sides of the story, the reality and Taboo's.
Absolutely, that's perfect.
This might be a good time to remind people, click the like button, or if you really like what I do, click the subscribe button, and that way you'll be notified of all new Hugh Jarsz movements. And if you really like what I do, click the join button and become a channel member. And for just $3.99 Australian a month, not American, but Australian, you can be part of the Hugh Jarsz movement. In fact, I'm hoping to put in a new tier in the memberships, so it'll cost a bit more a month. But the idea is the top 2 tiers. I think I'll have 4. The top 2 tiers, I'll be inviting people to come on live streams with me. If you're going to be that generous towards me, I'm quite happy to have you on my show. I'd love to have you here and have a chat to you. It's nothing important. While we're here, let's just watch me make Aaron Rass spit his coffee, hey?
Yes.
Oh, except I haven't shared with sound, so I can't do that. So I'll just move on. I'll have to cancel this, actually. Yeah. Too much technology. All right, so let me share the next one. Now, have you heard of a person called Katie Hopkins? I think the sarcastic barman has talked about her occasionally.
Yes. It sounds familiar.
She's a British person. Oh, Mike71, thank you for welcome to Jarsouls. New channel member. I love having a new channel member. Can other channel members post corgis in celebration?
Yay.
Yes, Kate, what was her name? Katie Hopkins. Yeah, she's someone from the UK. She's a real nut job, in my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. Apparently, she's been getting into politics lately. She's in UKIP, that crazy. I thought the Monster Raving Loony Party was supposed to be crazy, but UKIP. Oh, Mike's celebrating with his own corgis. Good on you, mate. Miles Davis says Katie Hopkins is the UK's worst. Is she worse than Kate Shemin-Irani? I'm not sure. To me, I actually confused them, but Katie Hopkins actually came to Australia last week. How she got to Australia is beyond me. The reason she was coming was to appear on Big Brother.
Oh, interesting.
Now there is literally hundreds of thousands of Australians overseas right now who can't come home because they have to go through 14 days of quarantine at their own expense, and they just don't have that sort of money.
Right.
And not to mention there's not that many flights and that kind of thing. But somehow Katie Hopkins could not only get here, but she got a visa from the government to come here. We'll have a look at that in a second. Coinciding with this is the return of Barnaby Joyce as the leader of the National Party, and he's now the Deputy Prime Minister as a result. He's a bit of a nut job himself. A lot of people would think that. And we'll see what he has to say. Oh, hang on, I've lost. Where is it? Oh, right, okay. I didn't preset this one, unfortunately. There we go. That's preset. Yes, when you see Barnaby Joyce, if you haven't seen him before, you'll get what I'm saying.
Okay.
Let me share the screen. And here he is.
Oh.
So let's hear what he has to say about Katie Hopkins.
Well, there's thousands of Australians are unable to return home, as we know right now, and yet there's a right-wing British media personality, Katie Hopkins, who's been allowed in and is already boasting on social media that she's breaking the hotel quarantine rules. What do you think? Are you okay with someone like this being able to come into Australia?
No. I'll come back. I'm the one who wanted to send home Johnny Depp's dog, so I've got no problem sending home someone. So they've got no problem sending home someone who wants to flout our laws. They want to flout our laws, then you pack your bongo and get out of the country.
Just finally, on your return to the...
Right, so that's pretty much sums up who Barnaby Joyce is, and that's our Deputy Prime Minister. Anyway, so the next video I got is from the federal minister responsible for... Well, Katie Hopkins was actually told to pack her bags and get out of the country, and with a boot up the arse to match. So let's just watch what the relevant minister said about that.
We're joined by the Minister for Home Affairs, Karen Andrews. Minister, good morning. What is the current travel status of Katie Hopkins?
Hopefully on her way out of the country as the day rolls on. At this point in time, her visa, the visa she travelled to this country on, has been cancelled.
I'll get it off my screen.
Yeah.
Right out of Australia, and quite frankly, good riddance.
So that is expected to happen today. Is that your expectation?
That's what we're working towards. So I know that ABF, the Australian Border Force, is working as quickly as it can to look at what the flight availabilities are, and they'll be working with her directly to get her on an aircraft.
Why was she given a visa in the first place?
Well, she was supported by a state government to come into the country, and the application was based on the fact that there would be an economic benefit because of the opportunity that she and others would have here in Australia. So we as a federal government do support state and territory governments when they wish to bring people in here, particularly if they're doing it over the quarantine caps. There are some pretty well-established procedures in place as to how these people can potentially access the exemption to come into Australia, and it was granted on that basis. Now, as soon
I think that sort of pretty much covers it. So,
Wow.
yeah. And for those people in the chat saying that you want her to stay in Australia, she's already back in the UK. So, like I said, we told her to pack her bags and gave her a boot up the arse to boot. So she's back in the UK, and she's not coming back for Big Brother. I mean, of the state government, I think it was a Victorian one. So people from Melbourne and that kind of area, they said they wanted her there to be in Celebrity Big Brother. But, I mean, of all the people they could have chosen, I guess they wanted her to be provocative, and that way they get ratings. But,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if this was the 1930s, they might have got Hitler to come over.
Yeah.
Not that he would, of course, but
Right.
I just bring a few 100,000 of my friends with their guns, okay?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's all they were after were the ratings, and that's why they brought her in, because they knew she was going to act. She was going to do what she just did, and say, "I'm not following this."
Well, that's the
Wow.
thing. I mean, not only was she so stupid that she broke the quarantine rules, but she boasted about it. I
Yes.
mean, she, as we were talking earlier, how can they not understand why they're there? Why we're trying to protect people? I'm sure she's an anti-vaxxer and says the virus is all fake and that sort of thing too. I don't know. I couldn't find anything clear about that other than the fact that she was breaking quarantine. But yeah, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that seems consistent with her other behaviour.
Oh, yes, it really does. It's and to broadcast what you're doing. I'm not going to follow the rules, and I'm going to make sure that as many people know as possible. Here we go.
Yes, I'm an idiot, and so am I. Yes. Just out of interest, is Matt there right now?
He wandered off. He's off playing.
All right. So if he wanders back, if anyone wants to give me a super chat, we'll get Matt to read it out, seeing that's what he's so good at.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be cool.
So now the next thing I want to share with you. Oh dear, come on. There we go. So I found this on Facebook. A flurf put this up saying, here's a picture of the beautiful dome. There's a few flaws with that interpretation, I think.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And it's a gorgeous picture, but
It is.
does not prove a dome, but it's great
what
shot.
What it means is that seeing the dome goes down to Antarctica, all around the flat Earth, that means Antarctica is over here and Antarctica is over here. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Exactly.
And if that's the dome, what's all this over here on the other side of the dome? How can we see that? It's almost as if we're outside the dome, isn't it?
It does. We're outside the dome in a room somewhere, maybe. I don't know. That's just the oddest thing.
Yeah. I mean, we know all about domes. We've seen the Simpsons movie.
Right. Read Stephen King's Under the Dome book, which is supposed to take place in Maine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just they put this up as it's proof of flat Earth, but it's just laughable, you know. It's just I just can't understand that their thought process is that they think that this is even approaching evidence. So,
right. It's evidence that that raindrops are really great at reflecting, scattering light and throwing back the colors at you. It's
also evidence that flirts are idiots. So,
oh gosh, yes. So
now
silly.
I want to go back to space now, and I want to show you just because it's cool. Moving water in space. This video I found. So let's play that. So when water doesn't have any other forces on it except its own surface tension, this is what happens. I'm going to kill the sound. We don't need the sound. It's a bit hard to hear.
Look at the shape it makes. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And there was a Japanese guy on the station. He's back now, but he put an Alka-Seltzer inside a bubble of water. I don't know if you call that a bubble. It's a ball, isn't it? And it's sort of all frothed up inside, but stayed as a ball. It became this white ball full of carbon dioxide and water. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
So he's taking sips from the water ball. Oh, there he goes. Oh, he's blowing bubbles inside. Look at that.
Look at that.
So now it is a bubble. It's just a very thick bubble.
And it still maintains its shape.
And it conforms to whatever forces he applies to it. Otherwise, it just stays where it is.
But look at the shape it took on. Isn't that amazing?
I
love it.
But flirts say this is all, a zero-G space plane or something,
They would have to be up there for quite a while, and they
yeah.
to get those shots like that. That's incredible.
So yeah, just getting back to anti-vaxxers and things. Last weekend, not only here in Australia, but I understand in many places around the world, a whole bunch of people came out demanding freedom and, having hundreds of thousands of people really from the lockdown, especially in Sydney where they've been locked down for quite a while. And it was illegal, of course, under the emergency provisions. They weren't allowed to do it, but the police were a bit overwhelmed here in Australia, at least.
Wow.
And in Sydney, they're calling in the army because they were talking about having a protest again this weekend, and the army is going to stop people getting into the city to do that.
Oh my!
And I just don't understand the mentality that they're protesting against the government that's trying to keep them alive by making sure they're not all together and spreading the virus. So, I mean, we're having, and these are big numbers for us. I know elsewhere in the world they're not, but we're having like 150 to 200 new cases a day at the moment. And that's more than we've ever had because of the Delta variant.
Right.
And when you have tens of thousands of people coming into the city and all not social distancing, not wearing masks, That's going to skyrocket in the next month.
Oh,
Surely
yeah.
at least one of them had COVID or asymptomatic or whatever.
Right.
And the really stupid thing is most of the 1,000-odd deaths that we've had in Australia, and again, that's not a big number worldwide, but it's the 1,000 people who don't have their loved one anymore.
Right.
That was traced back to a Black Lives Matter protest that was held in Melbourne in, I think it was April of last year, just after the pandemic had sort of become a significant thing.
Right.
They didn't social distance, no masks, and then suddenly all these people got sick because there was people in there with COVID. And I've no doubt that the same thing's going to happen now. And so we've been managing this relatively well. And now we've got the vaccine, so that helps a lot. But I just can't imagine the stupidity that when their grandfathers were asked to take a gun and land on the beaches in Normandy or go to the Kokoda track in New Guinea or whatever.
Right.
They're being asked to sit at home for a couple of weeks and watch Netflix. And yet they're demanding that they go out there and get their freedom.
Yes, and I've seen protests other places too. I guess they had them in the UK and they had them here in the US to a lesser extent, which surprises me. But yeah, there have been protests a lot here though all along. People have been protesting, well, my freedoms are more important. But what they don't realize sometimes when they're doing these things and they're making other people sick,
yeah,
aren't they infringing on that other person's freedom now that they're sick? You know, it's like
spot on. Yeah,
and their public health too. It's just a public health disaster. You know, public good does weigh into rights too, and quote unquote freedoms. I mean, it's just yeah, it just boggles the mind, and they're upset. You know, it's first world problems all over. You know, it's like they have to, like you said, stay home and watch Netflix for a couple weeks until the cases start dropping again and doing what there's, you know, keeping it maintained. And they just don't understand that. They're just so selfish and want to be able to do whatever they want. And they have their freedoms that they don't think about anything else. They don't even think about themselves getting sick.
Yeah.
To me, that just boggles the mind.
Yeah, they want to be right more than they want to live, basically.
Yes.
And the fact that they're wrong is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. I don't want that sort of stupidity to become mainstream in our society because it'll be the end of our society.
Yes, everywhere.
And I want my children to still have a society to live in and thrive in, you know?
Exactly. Same here. I want Matt to grow up in, you know, and have the society and supports in place that he would need, but we can't have that if we have people like this pulling this type of stuff and not caring about society as a whole. Only, you know, they've got theirs, and so everybody else be damned. And it's just one of those things that, wow. I just don't understand it. Why can't you just follow what's going on, stay home, help everybody, including your grandmother? You could make your own grandmother sick doing these things,
and many have.
Yes.
It's it's incredibly selfish, incredibly stupid.
It
and
is.
To a lesser extent, but still pretty stupid. Whenever there's a hint of a lockdown or one's announced, people rush to the store and buy toilet paper. But even if they've been through lockdowns before where the stores remained open and you can still go and buy toilet paper if it was there. Why do they panic buy? They know that they don't need to because they've been through it, and yet they still do it.
And they still do it. And yes, I've noticed that because they said there was an uptick in cases. I went to Walmart this afternoon to get, you know, just to get some stuff for the weekend. Because we've got some stuff to do. And the toilet paper aisle was low again. Do they really anticipate having to go to the bathroom that much during the 2 weeks that they might have to stay home?
Well, yes. Well, I reckon in the year 2050, there'll be grandparents handing down the toilet paper they saved in the year 2020. So,
Exactly. You need to go. Here you go. We've got some toilet paper for you. Vintage,
But Grandpa,
no less.
it's 30 years old. It's falling apart. Doesn't matter, son. I paid for that in 2020, you know?
Pandemic potty paper. You know?
Yes, that's a good word. Hello, Snark. It is kind of shit to have to stay inside. Well, it is, yes. But, well, first of all, Europeans do it a lot because it's cold most of the time.
Right.
But, I mean, as long as you're not mixing with other people, it's easy. You can go to the park and walk the dog and do all that sort of thing. You don't have to go near other people. So,
right. You can go outside. You can take walks. We do. Matt, since it's just he and I, he goes outside and rides a scooter on a regular basis and did throughout the pandemic because it was just him outside. And of course, I have the perfect place to keep an eye on him as I'm getting stuff done around the house. So it works out. And you can still do that. I know it sucks to have to stay home and not be able to go too far, but you know, you do it just to keep everybody safe and healthy and happy, you know?
Yeah. Do your bit to be part of society.
Absolutely.
And keeping people you don't even know. That, I mean, it's just basic manners, really. I think the whole thing comes from, in the end, every human has a different opinion. But in pretty much every situation, it happens in politics, it happens in business, they always tend to sort of form loose alliances with people who are just a little bit different from them, and who in turn form alliances with people who are just a little bit different from them. And that sort of conglomerates into two groups who oppose each other. And I think something similar is happening here. And I'm not going to be disparaging to either group. I'm just going to say the way it is. There's going to be the people who have, for want of a better term, a science background. They do things that require them to think through and think critically. I'm thinking engineers. Clive Wells, a mathematician, he's a good example. Any sort of scientists. I'm in IT. People who do IT in that category as well. And then there's the people who are more artistic, where they don't really need a logical process to do what they do to be productive. And because humans break into those two groups, there's the scientist type people who look at the situation and come up with the objective best way to look at it. And there's the artistic people who are reacting more on emotion. And because there's two groups, they're going to oppose each other. You say that? Well, you're not in my group, so therefore I'm going to oppose you. And vice versa. And because humans are humans. And that's what's happening with this. So the best medical advice is saying we've got to stay at home and, you know, not spread the virus and that kind of thing, so that the majority of us are safe. And so the other group is saying, well, no, we're not going to stand for that. We've got to, my freedoms, you know. And that's what causes the whole thing. So we're getting to the point where the pandemic's gone on long enough for that to become an issue. And I think it's just going to continue until the vaccines have brought in the herd immunity, and it's not an issue anymore.
Exactly. And that's, you put it the perfect way. It's groupthink for both groups in a way, sort of. But yeah, if you notice, if you listen to the people who oppose all of the, you know, the lockdowns and everything, and they all pretty much say the same things. And, you know, it's like a hive mind. It's really strange. And and you were right too about how there's an analytical group who reasons through things and thinks and uses logic and their expertise in that. And then there are the reactionary group who, well, you told me to do that. Now I'm just going to be contrarian and I'm just going to say, no, I'm not doing it. You know, almost like a petulant child.
And that's not to invalidate that point of view.
No,
I mean, they're humans. They have emotions. They're entitled to express them and that kind of thing. But it also, because it becomes a political thing rather than a logical thing, and because they don't have the experience in the logical side of thing, they can't trust the people who do have that logic. And because they're driven by emotion, not by logic. So
Right.
And you have that conflict as a result. And that's just part of being in human society, unfortunately. That's all I'm saying. I'm not disparaging either side.
No, neither
I'm
am
just
I.
saying
But this just
that's what we have to deal with.
exactly, and it's just what happens. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So
And as Clive Wells makes a point, consensual politics is far worse. And yes, and that's kind of what I'm getting to, that you kind of need both. You need that emotional point of view and the logical point of view to come up with what's best for everyone, because that's going to be closer to what is best for everyone. But I think you've got to start with the logical and then be tempered by the emotional. That's why we have emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's how, when we care for each other, that's how we become a society. That's how we become cohesive and are able to work together.
That's how we become generous too, because generosity is where you're giving of yourself when you didn't have to, and that makes everyone better off.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think that's a great note to end the stream. We've been going for an hour and a half. Thank you very much for being my guest, Aimee. It's great to have a longer chat with you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome. And it gave me a chance to be able to yak away with you. And I just think it's wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I hope we had a bit of fun too. We looked at a few dark subjects. We talked about a few, I don't like talking politics. It was more about human nature than politics, but politics is a function of human nature.
Yes.
And we had a look at some cool space things and saw a giant dick and everything.
Yes, that was the best thing too. And plus, don't forget the Corgi Olympics.
Oh, yes, the Corgi Olympics. World champions in barking, yes. Exactly. All right, thank you so much to Aimee. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat who came along to have a look and who's been watching. Thank you to my channel members, especially the new channel member, Mike71. Thank you for becoming a Jar Soul. I think that covers it. Look out for the 4th video on taboo conspiracy coming up this week. I'm hoping to do another one that's just a bit of fun as well, because taboo is a bit I don't want to be focused on him. I want to do something that I enjoy as well, but I think it's important to counter what he's saying so that people who are inexperienced or uneducated don't necessarily fall for what he's saying. And yet everyone keep safe and look after each other. And I'll see you on the next video. So there's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're